What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Odd Shoppers Best Bets for our MMA card this weekend. We have UFC 280, phenomenal card between Islam Makhachev and Charles Oliveira. From top to bottom, we have legitimate contenders. And this is a very exciting week from a DFS standpoint, but more importantly, from a betting standpoint. There is so much value to be had, but I wanted to touch on some fights that are kind of going lost in the shuffle, if you will. So before we do that, I would like to recap last week's awesome card. And, last week for our best bets, we went 3 of 4, and Joe Anderson Brito inside the distance came through clutch. He looked great. It didn't really look like it was much of a competition at all. We also took down the under 2.5 between Cub Swanson and Jonathan Martinez. We had Jonathan Martinez looking career best, picking up a huge win over a notable name in Cub Swanson. And then we also hit the sprinkle play between Tatsuro Taira winning via submission, and that looked phenomenal. So the one lone defeat we had last week was a loss of like 20 seconds or something in the Dusko Todorovic and Jordan Wright fight. I'm still mad at the referee because I feel like that fight should have been stopped so that we could have hit the under 1.5. But it is what it is. We move on to another week, and this week is no different. We have some value, some awesome spots, and you guys know me. I like to target some safe lines and sprinkle it with some risky bets as well. So we'll start it off. Bet number 1. Muhammad Mokaev inside the distance, sitting there at minus 225. I really feel like he is one of the next biggest prospects in the lighter weight classes. I really feel like he's going to dabble between flyweight and bantamweight, and he has the goods. This guy is going to be challenging for the belt, and you've seen it throughout his UFC tenure so far. He is absolutely dominant. His wrestling is second to none. He will ragdoll his opponents. He will throw vicious strikes as well. And on the flip side, he's facing Malcolm Gordon, who has always had durability concerns, throughout his career. 14-5 overall. And in all of Malcolm Gordon's defeats, he has been finished. So I feel like this is a very, very intelligent matchup for the prospect of Muhammad Mokaev. I'm expecting a round 1 or 2 finish, but I didn't want to get too cute because if Muhammad Mokaev just ragdolls him for a little bit and this gets stretched out, I would much rather target the Muhammad Mokaev inside the distance, sitting there at minus 225 is going to be bet number 1. Our next bet of the evening is going to be targeting the under 2.5 rounds between Nikita Krylov and Volkan Oezdemir. I really feel like there's some value on this line, and I was expecting the line to be a lot worse than minus 175. If you go back and you look at Nikita Krylov's career, he has a ton of round 1 and round 2 wins, and also a ton of round 1 and round 2 defeats. He goes out there, and the pace that he pushes is quite high, and it also leads him to making mistakes, his opponents capitalizing on those mistakes. So he's a fighter that I would claim to be a volatile fighter. And on the flip side, Volkan Oezdemir has some question marks surrounding his ground game if this does hit the mats at all. And in addition to that, we've seen him be susceptible to taking big shots. Nikita Krylov looked career best in his previous performance against Alexander Gustafsson. Volkan Oezdemir looked okay in his most recent win over Paul Craig. But in general, I like targeting heavier weight classes with the unders. Never mind having Nikita Krylov's historical round 1, round 2 type of volatile nature involved in it. So you're giving me an under 2.5 between Krylov and Oezdemir sitting at minus 175. I'm going to take my chances all day long, and I actually think that there's plenty of value on that line. If you're looking to make some money on the fights this weekend, I would suggest taking advantage of this offer we have from BetMGM. If you bet $10 on any NHL team tonight, and if any team scores a goal, you will turn that $10 into $200. And it sounds like a perfect way to boost the bankroll, especially with the fights coming Saturday morning. So take advantage of this offer we have from BetMGM. Moneyline bets only. Bet $10, win $200 if any team scores a goal tonight. Our third bet of the evening is going to be the under 2.5 between AJ Dobson and Armen Petrosyan. It sits at minus 185. And let me tell you, I don't trust either one of these fighters. And the reason I don't trust them is because that they're relatively green within their professional careers in MMA. We have seen AJ Dobson look susceptible to getting taken down and ragdolled and controlled, as evidenced in the Jacob Malkoun fight. We've also seen his cardio come into question, and it looks like he has a suspect gas tank. We've also seen Armen Petrosyan get controlled on the mat. So this is going to be a stylistically pleasing fight on the feet. It should be a kickboxing matchup for as long as it lasts. Both of these fighters prefer the fight on the feet, and they have 5 of their 6 professional wins coming in round 1 or 2. So I really feel like the under 2.5 is a gift. We have the under 2.5 sitting at -185. There's plenty of questions about the durability of Armen Petrosyan on the regional scene. You know, he was clipped and hurt several times. Very dominant in some aspects of the fight as well. But I really feel like this is going to be a fireworks type of fight. Who lands first? Who lands the big shot? AJ Dobson, a little bit more green than Armen Petrosyan, could be mixing in some takedowns since he's been working with Matt Brown. But I have to tell you that the under 2.5 sitting there at -185 seems like a no-brainer to me. And our final bet of the evening is going to be our sprinkle bet, where we're going to be targeting Kyle Bahayo to win via submission, sitting there at +300. Last week, we were able to hit the Tatsuya Taira submission prop, sitting there at +300 or something around there. And this week, I'm going to be targeting Kyle Bahayo just because I feel like a lot of people are down on his finishing ability. And I think that when he's able to take his opponents to the mat, put them in bad positions, take their back, he is so good at control time. And I know that the submission skills are there. The finishing ability is there. He just needs the correct opponent to do so. And I think that Makhmudmuradov is going to be that opponent who will challenge him on the feet. And he's talented enough to make Kyle Bahayo want to go to the takedown department a little bit earlier than he would in some other matchups. So I was pretty high on Makhmudmuradov prior to the defeat to Gerald Meerschaert, where he has a clear deficiency in the submission department. The jiu-jitsu gap between these two is significant. And I think if Kyle Bahayo takes him down, this is a perfect matchup for him to land his first finish inside the UFC. So I will say Kyle Bahayo to win via submission sits there at +300. And that is going to be our sprinkle bet of the week. Alrighty, guys. So there you have it. We have our first bet of the evening is going to be Muhammad Mokaev inside the distance at -225. The under 2.5 rounds between Nikita Krylov and Volkan Oezdemir sitting there at -175. Following that up with the under 2.5 between AJ Dobson and Armen Petrosyan at -185. And our sprinkle bet of the evening, Kyle Bahayo to win via submission at +300. Again, my name is Pete Rogers. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to Odd Shoppers Best Bets for UFC 280. And I'll be back here next week. Hopefully this is another profitable week, and I can't wait to hear from you guys. So have a good one. Enjoy the fights. See you next week.